Hello and welcome to my newest video on the PMP 2024 updates, which are the additional information that you need on top of the previously released 45 videos about the PMP. In this video, we're going to discuss change management, governance, and compliance, which are three important keywords that PMI has added to the exam. Yes, change was mentioned previously, governance was kind of referenced, compliance maybe not so much previously, but now as a project manager, you are more responsible for overseeing the successful delivery of a project through all the changes and by meeting all of the compliances. Projects bring about change, which is why projects are even initiated in the first place. As project managers, we are change makers, and when organizations are about to take some business decisions, change is one of the most important factors that they have to think about. As a project manager, you need to think about how your project connects with the higher level organization and how you are contributing to the changes that the organization needs to make. This means you need to have a systems approach and you need to think about the overall impact of your project, and as things start to go wrong or right, issues, changes, risks, you need to figure how changes should be done so that they don't impact the overall strategy of your organization. One of the most important things that you encounter when you're trying to bring about change is the culture of the organization. The organization could have a mindset that rejects change altogether, and you have to have very good interpersonal skills and great leadership skills for you to be able to influence your stakeholders and the rest of the organization to go along and accept the change that you're about to introduce with your project. Now, at the highest level, maybe it's strategically, they embrace change. You know, the senior management, the executives, they embrace change because that is the only way they can actually move with the times. And a lot of organizations will put together a PMO, a project management office, that would oversee the implementation of these changes through projects and programs and so on. These PMOs most of the time would help with knowledge retention, so archiving and saving information, knowledge management, knowledge sharing, lessons learned databases. These are all very important for the organization to gain that wealth of knowledge and rely on it whenever they need to make a change. In addition, organizations employ continuous improvement, which requires constant changing to stay up with the times. When we have a project in hand and this project is going to bring about change to the organization, there's a recommendation on how we go about doing it. First, we have to assess how ready is the organization for this change? What is the culture? What is the mindset? And then the second thing that we need to look at is what would be the impact of this change on the organization, and what does it mean for the project? Do we need to change any of the requirements of the project? Based on that assessment, we can now make recommendations for how we will proceed with any changes into the project that we have on hand. As a project manager, when you're about to start on a project, you need to assess and understand the mindset and culture of the organization. The reason you have to do that is how the organization thinks could impact how successful you'll be on your project. They could totally resist what you're trying to do on your project, or they can be more accepting. So it's very important that you do an assessment of that mindset and culture of that organization. So the question now that you may have is, how would I know what the culture of the organization is? And there's quite a few things that you could look at. One of the first things that you'd look at is how they view leadership. What sort of a hierarchy that they have? Is it, boss and, supervisors and junior supervisors, or is it a flat organization? What sort of a hierarchy do they have for leadership? You also look at what are their shared beliefs, values, and expectations. And we also consider their openness to diversity, inclusion, or inclusivity, their risk tolerance. Do they have an appetite for risk or not? Do they not want to take chances? What are the policies or procedures or regulations that they follow? What's the code of conduct that they have? What is considered normal or not normal? And how is the operating environment, and what is the motivation systems that they have in place? These will tell you a very good reading about the organizational culture. Now, once you understand the culture and mindset of the organization, and you consider, for example, the region that they're in, you consider the industry that they're in, and how they view projects and how they put together project teams, and the structure of the leadership and hierarchy, you would take those into consideration so that you can plan for your project effectively. Factor those into your project and try to figure out the best way that you can get the project done considering that culture. Now, when you want to implement organizational change, it always has to start with individual change. As they say, it starts from the inside out. And one of the models that exist out there is one from ProSci, I believe, and it's called ADKAR, ADKAR. And what that stands for is the following. A stands for the awareness of the need to change. Give you an example. Let's say people are coming to me and say, Ed, you're gaining a lot of weight. You got to do something about it. And then I look at myself and I say, I don't need to lose any weight. I'm fine. So here you see that the A is going to fail because why? I'm not aware that I need to change. There's nothing that convinced me that I need to change. So first, you got to cross this A, which is awareness that they need to change. Let's say I am aware, right? And I look at myself and I'm like, you're right. I do need to lose some weight. The next step that we need to look at is the D. This is part of the ADKAR. So the D says, do I have the desire to make the change? Or the desire to support the change? Do I want to? Yes, I want to. I would love to lose the weight and I'd like to look toned and fit and everything, so I have the desire. So now we go to the K. The K is knowledge on how to go about making the change. Do I know how to make the change? Now, I could look it up and it would say, eat properly, don't eat late at night, go do a lot of walking, exercising, go to the gym. So I do have the knowledge, right? So I have the awareness that I need to make the change. I have the desire. I know how to make the change, A, D, K. Now we have the other A. The other A is ability to demonstrate new skills. So here's the thing. Can I or can I not? Can I actually make that change? Would I have the ability to demonstrate the willingness to go to the gym or cut down on what I'm eating or eat the right foods? Now, some people can, some people can't. And it all depends on whether I can do that. So if I have the ability to do this and I'm motivated and I get it done, that's the A. The final part of ADKAR is the R, and the R stands for reinforcement to make the change stick, right? So if I'm motivated and I can do this for like a week or 2 weeks and I've lost a few pounds here and there, but then I lose the steam and the motivation, and then I go back to eating, going back to my old habits, then the change did not stick. So it has to actually apply all 5 pieces for the change to be meaningful. Awareness that the change needs to be done. D, desire to support that change. K, knowledge on how to go about making that change. A, the second A, ability to demonstrate new skills. And R, reinforcement to make the change stick. So you can see that's a really nice model that should be followed in assessing whether an organization wants to make that change. You have to go through the questioning, probing to understand how likely that organization will be willing to make the change. Now, if you do want to implement change, there's a few do's and don'ts that you should follow. The do's is coach people, be patient, mentor, give them time to learn this. Implement an agile mindset, because agile is all about change and embracing change, adding ideas and evaluating and prioritizing those ideas so that we can process the change successfully. And finally, keeping all of your knowledge and data current, because this will support future changes. If all of your data is outdated, then what are you building on? You need some sort of statistics that is fairly new for you to be able to make any change. Now, the don'ts include: don't push people, don't force the change on them, be patient. Do what we said you should do, which is be patient and mentor people and encourage them and tell them why they're making the change. So you can't really push the change on anyone. And if anyone resist the change, don't alienate that person or group. Instead, explain to them why the change is important. Now, what would help with a change initiative is to get a reading on how the organization feels or the impacted team feels. So there are things such as attitudinal surveys that you can take just to get feedback from them. These surveys will tell you how people feel about that change. Is the majority supporting it or not? You could also create an informational campaign where you can have posters, workshops, or something you put into the newsletter to promote what it is that you're about to change. And another tricky part of change is that, people will start to ask you, so what happens after this change? Because they get worried about losing their jobs or having to shift their roles or responsibilities. You honestly have to be clear about the impacts of this change, good and bad. People need to know what would happen after this change. And if it helps, I think you should have a rollout plan, maybe roll it out in stages, maybe pilot rollout in a small area of the organization, then you can roll it out someplace else. Now, to support change, PMI created an initiative called Brightline, which connects strategy to execution, which is what changes. You want to transform the organization, and you want to go from thought process to actually doing it. And the way it's done is that you have to have a North Star statement which says why we're doing this. What is the vision? Why do we need to make this transformation? Next, you want to get some market study, insights, data, trends, so you can use things like PESTLE, P-E-S-T-L-E, which I covered previously in the last video, and use that study to explain how the market environment is affecting your business. Then you want to put together a cross-functional transformation operating system, which includes a team of savvy project experts who can jump in on this change and execute on it, and in a flat type organization, not a hierarchy, no bosses, no nothing, but a group of people who are fast, rapid, can get the change done for you. And then to support that change, you need a few volunteers, maybe a couple of very well-known and highly respected supervisors, directors, C-level people, executives from your organization that everybody believes in. Let them adopt this change that you're trying to roll out, and if they do so and everybody else sees that, then everybody follows along. And the idea of having these highly respected people be the volunteers for this new change is that they become the champions and everybody already respects them, and that allows you to make the change from the inside out. And this brings us to the end of the change and organizational culture, and now we need to talk about governance.